Hey everyone, and welcome to Law and Society. So today I'm going to do this as somebody requested that I talk about Donald Trump's executive overreaches. And most of my videos that talk about Donald Trump is talking about his overreaches because what Donald Trump has been doing from day one is overreaching as no other president has because he signed an executive order that wanted to do away with birthright citizenship, thereby encroaching on constitutional rights of individuals who are born in the United States. And that itself is an overreach because you are supposed to take care that the laws be faithfully executed. Remember, this is one thing to remember. The president's primary duty under Article 2 is that he take care that the laws be faithfully executed. He doesn't have the permission to change the laws. He doesn't have the permission to interpret the laws as he wishes to. He doesn't have the permission to defy the law. He has to take care that the laws be faithfully executed. And the highest law of the land is the Constitution and the amendments. So when you start day one by pitting up against the 14th Amendment's birthright citizenship clause, you are attacking and overreaching into constitutional domain that you have no business. In fact, attacking it is going against your oath and your duty to take care that the laws be faithfully executed. With the tariffs are an overreach. The use of IEPA that does not give presidents the right to tariff, it gives presidents the right to regulate commerce, is an example of Donald Trump using that regulatory law in order to tariff virtually every country in the world and start trade wars. Well, the law itself does not give the president tariffing power. Congress here has delegated to Donald Trump or the president the power to regulate international commerce under IEPA, not the power to tariff nations. Therefore, we're going to see what the outcome of that is with the Supreme Court coming out with that ruling soon, hopefully. But that is an example of Donald Trump overreaching and grabbing congressional tariffing power that the president doesn't have. Doji is a security breach that called our government agencies and that were created by Congress, and it was an entity that was not created by Congress, and thereby, just by implementing Doji, which then went about cutting congressionally appropriated funds and firing people in these regulatory agencies, Doji went after legislative agendas that were written into law and passed by Congress and signed by presidents. But Doji went ahead and went on this data mining marathon while they started cutting agency officials and agency spending. That is Congress's power. Congress delegates to the president what spending needs to happen. It is not for the president to tell Congress that we don't want to spend money here. We want to put the money here. Donald Trump has been doing that for the last 10 or 11 months, reallocating money from places that Congress has allocated it for and pushing it to other departments. And that is taking away Congress's spending power. That is taking away Congress's legislative power to create laws, create agencies, create the appropriation of funding for these agencies. And Doji was an attack on that. And it was a vast executive overreach into congressional power and a dereliction of the take care clause, because not only were they not taking care that the laws be faithfully executed, doji was dismantling the structures that are implemented by the way of those laws. Connected to that are Russell Vaught's rescissions. There is nothing in Article 2 which gives presidents the power to tell Congress what money is to be dispersed where and how much. It is for Congress to tell the president not to spend here and to spend here. The fact that Russell Vaught sends rescissions and Congress, MAGA Congress, passes the rescissions as a retroactive way to take back the money that the executive has decided not to spend is not how our government is set to operate. Our government is set to operate where Congress tells you the money is there, we have appropriated for this reason, and it must be spent for this reason. And it is the president's job to spend money on those projects and those infrastructure programs or whatever that Congress has put into law and then presidents have signed into law. That's the birthright citizenship attacks that I've already talked about, trying to disenfranchise Americans of their right. It's an attack on the Constitution when the president is supposed to take care that the Constitution is faithfully executed. The Constitution is the highest law of the land. And so it's incumbent on the sitting president to take care that the Constitution be faithfully executed. That's his primary duty. The boat attacks and this talk of war with Venezuela, after 60 days of any sort of military operation, the president needs congressional authorization by way of the War Powers Act, and Donald Trump has still not asked Congress for any authorization for the boat attacks in the Caribbean that has been going on for way more than 60 days. Destroying the East Wing of the White House is another example where you need to, if it's a historical place, you need to give notice to Congress. Congress needs to appropriate funds to be able to make those renovations and those changes. Then there's the Planning Commission. Then there's the Preservation Committee. Now the Preservation Committee has come out and Preservation Society has come out and sued the government to stop the building of the ballroom. But my question is, where the heck were they when the East Wing was being demolished? Why wasn't there a lawsuit right then and there for Donald Trump to stop that demolition? Then there's the firing of the independent agency heads that we heard oral arguments about in the U.S. v. Slaughter case, and there's the National Labor Relations Board case, and it seems like the Supreme Court is getting ready to say that the president can fire anybody from these independent agencies, despite the fact that the law, according to which these regulatory agencies were created, requires that these heads of these independent, quasi-independent agencies that were written into law by the legislature and governed by legislature in terms of how the heads would be nominated and vetted by Congress, and how the president must show cause and then notify Congress 30 days before the president is going to fire these agency heads. But again, he does not follow the law. He goes ahead and fires them anyway, thereby encroaching and violating the law that Congress had set in place by nominating these agency heads. There's the deployment of the National Guard without state authority consent. The law under which 12406, USC 10 12406, under which the National Guard has been deployed to the various states, have happened in a lot of states without that state's consent. And that is overreaching into state power in violation of the 10th Amendment that gives power to the states, the power to police and the power to enforce the laws. So taking away state police power by policing cities and states by the military and the guard is an overreach into state powers. Defying court orders is a defiance of the judiciary when it comes to undocumented immigrants. The Kilmar Abrego Garcia saga has been going on and it continues to happen. And thankfully now Judge Sinis has barred the government from detaining Mr. Garcia, but the government still doesn't seem to be relenting on Kilmar Abrego Garcia. But he is just one person. There are hundreds and hundreds and hundreds of cases happening right now, and the courts are overflowing with cases and habeas petitions from people who have been illegally detained by Donald Trump's regime. These illegal detentions are constitutional violations by which Donald Trump is violating the law, whereas Donald Trump is supposed to be enforcing the law. Then there's a violation of the emoluments clause, getting favors like the Qatari plane in exchange for housing Qatari air fleets in Idaho, gold bars for relaxing regulations and tariff exemptions, the crypto scams to get the pardons, the FIFA prize to drop litigation against FIFA. This is a corruption of our government and a violation of the law, the emoluments clause, where Donald Trump is facially violating in such a brazen way that people don't know how to react. And what apparatus is going to hold him accountable, especially after Supreme Court's Trump v. United States that give presidents near total immunity for official duties. He can fashion almost anything into an official duty. But can he fashion taking these gifts as official duty? Will he be able to fashion those illegal detentions as part of his executive duties? Because they're violations of constitutional rights, and that is against what the executive is supposed to do. I think that Supreme Court is kind of helping Donald Trump in expanding presidential power and encroaching on the legislature and the states, and not understanding that there's going to come a time, and it's happening right now, that Donald Trump's regime is defying lower court orders. And Donald Trump has gone as far as to say that he won't listen to lower court orders and he will appeal to the Supreme Court. And that's what we see that he has done. We will know more about which direction SCOTUS is going to go with a lot of these cases when they come out with the tariff ruling on IEEPA. I think that they're going to invalidate the tariffs. That's what I think. But I also think that they're going to allow Donald Trump to fire independent agency heads, notwithstanding legislation that provides for the process. And if they have any sense in their minds, they will interpret the laws to say that, no, you have to provide these people process and then show cause in order for you to fire them. That would be the right decision. But that doesn't seem like the direction in which the Supreme Court is going. So I hope this is a very short examples of Donald Trump's overreaches and Donald Trump's dereliction of duty and his violation of his central duty to take care that the laws be faithfully executed. If there are other questions that you have about his overreaches, please be specific about what you're talking about, and then I can probably go into it and talk about how that is an overreach or is not an overreach. I'll do my best to explain that to you. With that said, thank you so much for listening and engaging, asking me questions. I appreciate it. Remember to like, share, and subscribe, and I'll talk to you soon.